What's up, YouTube? Ryan Panny here. Hope you guys are doing reasonably well. One more Avenged Sevenfold video, inspired by the recent re-release of Diamonds in the Rough for the streaming era. Be sure to check out my video on that if you haven't yet. Very happy with how many people are enjoying that. But more broadly, that re-release got me thinking just in general about the deep cuts in the Avenged Sevenfold catalog. And my one constant critique of this band for what seems like forever is that when they put together their live set lists, they do not draw nearly enough from the seemingly bottomless well of great album cuts that they've accumulated over 7 albums. Which, look, I get it. They're a huge band, and you only get to be a huge band like that by producing legitimate hit songs. Not like hits in quotes, like Lamb of God's Redneck is a hit. I mean like TRL era. I mean like there are at least half a dozen, if not more, songs in the Avenged catalog that even people who hate rock and metal music are still peripherally aware of. And when it comes to filling large amphitheaters on tour, I get why they play the hits. I totally get it. Still, I can complain, I can bitch and moan, I can make videos like this where we talk about anything but the hits, which I'm sure their fans will be appreciative of. So before we get started with this actual top 10 here, we have to first define what a deep cut actually is. And I'm gonna use the criteria that I established in my Slipknot deep cuts video for this one, which is the following. A, obviously it can't be an official single. That much we should agree on. And B, it also can't be a song that's regularly performed by the band, because that already indicates that it's sort of a fan favorite, or at least it's popular enough to get the live treatment. So that second part is where we start to disagree a little bit, because by my criteria, that would leave out an Avenged song like Save Me off of Nightmare, which they performed a lot on the Nightmare tour. It would also leave out one of my favorite songs, Eternal Rest, which they performed live as late as recently as 2018. Also Higher off the Stage, that got the live treatment quite a bit. That would have been on here probably too. So we're bound to have a little bit of back and forth about the subjective nature of what a deep cut actually means, but just to be safe, I've chosen to make my criteria extra stringent. And I'm proud of what I came up with here. Not only are all these great songs, but when I look down this list, this would make for a pretty mean live set list too, like just these 10 songs. And since I did eliminate a lot of songs here, I should go through a few honorable mentions just to limit the whole "you forgot this song" parade that's inevitably gonna happen in the comments section. So I heavily considered both Coming Home and Heretic off of Hail to the King, which are my 2 favorite songs on the record besides Acid Rain. Also Brompton Cocktail off the self-titled, that almost got in here. So did Victim from Nightmare. And I'd say my number 11 at the moment would be the Crossroads B-side. I'm starting to like that more and more now that I'm revisiting it a lot. But it's all subject to changing time, of course. But for now, we have to do it sometime. So for now, here are my top 10 Avenged Sevenfold deep cuts. Number 10, I just talked about this song in the Diamonds in the Rough video, Demons, the opening track off of Diamonds in the Rough. This one did not make the cut on the self-titled record, probably because it wasn't weird enough for that record, but that's a damn shame because it is quietly one of the most well-constructed and most aggressive songs to come out of this time period for Avenged Sevenfold. Like I noted in the Diamonds in the Rough video, I love the Rev's pummeling drums on this one. I love the harmonized tremolo picking in the guitar solo. That's fucking epic, as is the mid-song breakdown. There's a lot of great things about this song, but for me, the MVP by far is frontman M. Shadows, who just, his versatility on this track. The way he's just effortlessly moving in and out between this over-the-top creepy delivery to a completely clean singing voice to his kind of signature rasp. This is a perfect snapshot of a moment in the band's career where M. Shadows underwent the most growth as a vocalist. I mean, for God's sake, just listen to City of Evil and then the self-titled record and you hear the difference. It's crazy. Next, I'm giving my love to an epic of Time Wasted, one of my very favorite tracks off the band's debut, Sang the Seventh Trumpet. Monster metal riff in this one. A riff that coexists weirdly well alongside some pop punk, alongside a pretty prominent influx of hardcore as well, and it all kind of climaxes with this crushing breakdown at the 3-minute mark. But then, in one of the many moments on this album that proved that Avenged were always fearlessly experimental and just way ahead of their own scene, the song, instead of just ending at that breakdown where it should, it abruptly transitions into this dark, grim, kind of second clean chorus, as if the chaotic structure of the song up to this point wasn't enough. And I love early Avenged material like this, where they're just so unsure of who they are and they're just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And in this case, it sticks. The controlled chaos of this song is really interesting and compelling and holds your attention. Okay, next up at number 8. I got a little bit of a soft spot for this one, I'm not gonna lie. The song Not Ready to Die, which is the first one that Avenged did for Call of Duty. And it's funny because the band themselves openly admit that they don't really like this song. But in hindsight, looking back on it, if they had made a whole album of songs like this instead of Hail to the King, I would have been fucking ecstatic. At the time this came out, I think it was 2011 or 2012, I forget, it just felt so out of left field the way it brought back some of the band's European metal influences that they hadn't really explored since City of Evil. It brought back a little bit of hardcore. There's some full-on screaming in there. I was so psyched when this came out. And it has stood the test of time. It really has. Now, compositionally, I will grant that it's not the most cohesive song. It's pretty much just a bunch of individually awesome parts that are stacked on top of each other, but otherwise unrelated, especially as you meander into the middle of the song. It's basically the way Metallica write music, just stacking parts that sound cool until it ends up being a song. But that's kind of what I love about it, because Avenged Sevenfold otherwise are so conceptually driven, and they end up getting kind of boxed in by that, and their listeners also end up getting kind of boxed in by that. Especially with a record like Hail to the King if you're not quite into the concept itself. Not Ready to Die is a rare example of what happens when they drop the conceptual shit and just indulge. Specifically, I love the swirling gothic keyboards in the intro here. I think that the decision to not harmonize that main guitar line in the intro brings a totally different flavor. It's a lot darker for it and not quite as sugary. And of course, you eventually get the sugary twin guitar version of it about 3 minutes into the song, but the tremolo picking part after the solo is sick. And as I already kind of mentioned, I love hearing a full-on core-ish breakdown in here. I think even now in 2020, this is still a great sound for this band to pursue. And if they made a whole record like this, I'd be all in. Number 7, Unbound. This song definitely earns its parenthetical title, The Wild Ride, except I would argue that in this case, The Wild Ride is more of an emotional one than a purely musical one. Because the only eccentric part of the song is just those circus-like piano arpeggios that are going on in the verses. But otherwise, it's the lyrics here that really capture your attention. The lyrics in the song have this fascinating, sort of gradual transition from this prideful, carefree bravado about being young and invincible to eventually these pretty haunting existential sentiments about the inevitability of death and the preciousness of time. I think the exact quote in this song is, "The hands of time strip youth from our bodies." And the decision here to have children sing lyrics that are just so way beyond their comprehension is brilliant. Number 6 is Betrayed off of City of Evil. Now, when I was younger, I definitely did not appreciate the lyrical brilliance of this song. The way it addresses the murder of Dimebag Darrell from 3 different perspectives. First, M. Shadows takes the perspective of the killer. The killer says that Dimebag took away the only thing I loved, i.e. the breakup of Pantera. And then that line, "All your power crumbles in my arms." Think about that line for a second. That conjures up imagery of an embrace. In my arms. Now, this killing was done by someone who in his head loved Dimebag, loved Pantera, so much so that their breakup helped drive him insane. When you think about it, it's kind of like a jealous husband killing their wife. It's this weird mix of love and violence. Then second, you get M. Shadows' more personal perspective as just an angry and hurt fan in the aftermath of the tragedy. He just lashes out at the dead killer with kind of this bitter sarcasm. He says he must mean everything to end it all this shameful way. Again, playing off sort of that idea of love and hatred being so weirdly close. He must mean everything to you that you had to kill him. And then of course the part that just makes me tear up every time is this whole stanza that comes directly from Dimebag's perspective. I'll just read it off. "Just did it for the love and people healed through us. Don't live your life in vain, don't take it out on me. You're cracked, so just remember I'm not your enemy. I don't deserve to fall this way by a man who felt betrayed." And those words are just sung with so much pain. It gives me chills even just talking about it, let alone listening to the actual song. And again, I just didn't appreciate this as much when I was a kid, but I think just as you age, lyrical themes about mortality and death just become more and more intense to you and more impactful. All right, our first entry here into the top 5, Shattered by Broken Dreams. From Sounding the Seventh Trumpet, my absolute favorite example of the fact that the band really never gave a fuck since day one, and we're always destined for this restless experimentation combined with also an insatiable appetite for melody. When people rail against this band constantly evolving and changing their sound, all you gotta do is go all the way back to the first album and see that it was always there from the beginning. I love the way this track builds organically from this somber acoustic ballad into quite an aggressive song, with these huge European metal influences colliding with early hardcore punk and creating another kind of ADD buffet of styles. And lyrically, it's also very dark, talking about the individual in question being emotionally broken and turning to drugs. Definitely some of my favorite early Avenged lyrics here. Number 4, one of the key pillars of, to me, one of the best 5-song runs on any record ever, The Wicked End off of City of Evil. The first half of the song is built on a combination of balls out thrash metal and this one absurdly catchy guitar line. It starts out very focused and very tight, and then the second half, the mood totally shifts and it becomes this larger-than-life, grandiose epic with a choir and an orchestra, and yet all these added elements integrating very well with the 5 band members. And I would say that I have parallel compliments for the following track on City of Evil, Strength of the World. I just think that The Wicked End is more seamless and more understated in the way that it integrates, again, an operatic choir and strings into what is still a 5-man band playing metal. It never feels like anything other than that. Those low register harmonized guitars that pop into the song at the 4.5-minute mark, they add such a dark and sinister tone. It's actually very similar to a part on Eternal Rest that I love equally. Now, despite having just compared this song to something from a past album, the other thing that I love about Wicked End is when you listen to it, it's an example of musical growth so massive and so incomprehensible. You can't believe that this is the same band that made Waking the Fallen less than 2 years before. It's not that Waking the Fallen is bad. It's a great album, but it's just what they're doing here is so different and so completely unforeseen that you can't help but marvel at that amount of growth in that period of time. And The Wicked End is one of several moments on City of Evil where I sit back and I'm just like, how is this the same band? Number 3, I finally get to talk about a track from The Stage, which is a record that I love, Fermi Paradox, which of course is named for the intuitive gap between the high scientific probability of extraterrestrial life existing and, on the other hand, the dearth, so to speak, of concrete evidence. It's something that Elon Musk has discussed publicly for years. The 1-2 punch here musically between the shimmering tremolo guitars and the blast beats in the pre-chorus, and then the chorus itself with the dreamy call and response vocals and that descending guitar line, it's 2 of my favorite parts that have ever existed in an Avenged Sevenfold song. And those synths in the middle of the track that carry us over between the second chorus and Sinister Gates' great guitar solo, those synths kind of feel appropriately extraterrestrial themselves. Number 2, a long-standing favorite of mine. I was able to give this song a little bit of love when I did a guitar video a couple years in this channel about Avenged Sevenfold, Desecrate Through Reverence off of Waking the Fallen. This song has it all. It's super morbid and doomy, then it's angry groove metal, then it sort of flashes its metalcore teeth, and then it just blossoms into one of the most memorable twin guitar solos the band has ever done, even though it's just pretty simply but effectively tracing the chorus melody. And then the way the song ends, in the end you're all dead to me, with that vocal harmony gliding over the double kick drum. It is really powerful stuff. And remember, this ending here segues right into Eternal Rest on the album. So this is an intelligent album cut in the purest sense of the word, because this abrupt and heavy ending just stops short and then psychs the listener out just in time for the most high octane beginning on the LP, the beginning of Eternal Rest. So yeah, this over the years has become my second favorite song off of Waking the Fallen to Eternal Rest. And number 1, very easy for me, my favorite Avenged Sevenfold song, period. And I think there are a lot of us that feel this way actually. M.I.A., the closer off City of Evil. The ending of, again, the best fucking 5-song run. One of the best 5-song runs on any album, and they ended on the highest note possible. It is another lyrical gem from M. Shadows on City of Evil, on par with Betrayed, albeit very different, this one being from the perspective of a young soldier who goes to war and then returns home. It's also a total odyssey instrumentally. There are a lot of parts and a lot of moods explored here in this almost 9 minutes of shit, but there is still not a single second on here that I would change. I could easily do a 20-minute video just on this song, dissecting every little part and what makes it great. But I think what I'll do is just point out a few emotional climaxes for me. Of course, there's the ending of the song, which I guess we're working backwards here, where the acoustic guitar pops in after that tear-jerking final verse. Wow. There's Sinister Gates' 2 guitar solos, and there's the twin guitar solo in the middle. Amazing. Right after that, there's the whoa-oh section, which the art of the whoa-oh melody is quite an overused one, but maybe just because no one can fucking beat this one. Like, there was no point in doing another one after M.I.A. came out. And then after that, you have another brilliant twin guitar solo that just outlines the melody in the first verse. And let me just point out here that these 3 parts that I just mentioned all happen right in a row. They all happen sequentially. I mean, at this point, you just feel like your head's about to explode. You're worried that you're gonna run out of dopamine and just be unhappy for 3 weeks straight. This is one of those rare songs that I would and have played for people who hate not just metal, but rock music. The lyrics and the music combine here for this cinematic effect where you feel like you're sitting back and watching this person's life unfold. It's just breathtaking. And that'll just about do it. I know, the Diamonds in the Rough re-release here, which was not that big of a deal, it sort of gave me an excuse to detour a little bit and rant and rave about Avenged Sevenfold music that I've been listening to for fucking 15 years. But hopefully the next time we're talking about Avenged, there will be a new album involved. hopefully. But for now, I'm sure we got a lot to argue about in terms of what I just said and the order of what I just said, and most importantly, probably what I didn't say. So be sure to comment below with your list and your opinions and what you think my most egregious mistakes here were. And as always, thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video and are not yet subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so by clicking right over here, as well as checking out any of the other rock or metal related content that I publish on this channel on a weekly basis. I really appreciate you guys watching, liking, disliking, just engaging in any fashion. Twitter, Instagram handle @RyanPannyMusic. Again, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you soon.